Logan, right now we're hopeful it's week to week, but we're going to get some more information here today and tomorrow, and so I'll probably have a better update for you on Wednesday.
What about Josh Tupou? Any update on him?
Josh will be a couple weeks at least.
When you went back and watched the tape, defensively, what did you think was the biggest reason why they were able to have so much success? And with their next two opponents being a run-heavy offense, how do you feel like you guys will be able to adjust without having DJ and, with Logan being up in the air?
Well, some of the plays hit on the perimeter, so it wasn't always D-tackle stuff. And, they hit a jet sweep versus a man coverage look. It's a good play call versus a good look. We got to get the guy on the ground. That was a big chunk. It really came down to there were 3 plays where they had 100 yards of rushing on. And so we just got to be better there, getting them off the field. We had a 3rd and 25 there in the third quarter where we had a chance to get off the field, and they then extended another couple plays and put 3 points on the board. So I think there were opportunities in the game where we could have capitalized quicker than we did. They did a good job possessing the ball. It felt like, I know the time of possession battle wasn't that extreme, but it felt like they had the ball a lot more than we did, probably because of that chunk there at the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter.
How important was B.J. Hill? It's 66 snaps. I think it was the most he played in 4 years. You kind of said if he wanted to take a rest, he probably couldn't.
Yeah.
How important was he to kind of getting through that game?
Yeah, it's crucial. And you just look at those last 2 drives, the guys that played a significant amount of snaps up front with Trey, Sam, and BJ, all 3 had enormous plays to win us the game. Trey getting us the 3rd and 4 where he hit Andy's hand and caused the incompletion. We scored on the next play. And then BJ and Sam getting that sack on the final drive on third down, I think it was, that put them in that 4th down spot. So those were critical plays by some guys that played a lot of snaps. I can't even put myself in their shoes as a D lineman that's playing that physical battle and able to go out there on the 77th play of the game and make those types of plays. And that's just the type of guys they are. They're relentless, and we got their best when we needed it there at the final gun.
Some more injured things. Jeff Gunner, did y'all get more information on him?
Yeah, he'll be week to week, with a knee dislocation.
Okay, and then how did Tee Higgins come out?
Good. Probably pretty sore today, but he played all but a couple snaps and was really effective, especially down the stretch. And so, he'll be dealing with some soreness, him and Jonah both. But neither one of them are worse off having played in the game.
Coach, Jamar's ability to focus amidst everything that was going on, he talked about in the press conference, how he shut that all out. For a young player, how rare is it to be that cognizant of what you need to do the day of a game like that?
Very rare. Just really seeing how composed he was the night before the game. He came into our quarterback meeting and participated a little bit in our quarterback Jeopardy battle that we typically have. And did a great job. Had a couple of protection answers for us, and really did a nice job stepping up to the plate. So you could just see how composed he was the night before, handling his business personally and professionally. And then to go out there, I just think it's cool in retrospect. As I got home last night and got a chance to really, somebody asked me the question in the press conference yesterday about those guys coming back home, and as you reflect on it, it is pretty special. For him to go back to his old stomping grounds and have the performance he did, especially with the final touchdown there, is, that's pretty cool.
Did Jamar get invited, or did he crash the Jeopardy?
Jamar's always invited. Oftentimes we crash the receiver dinner. Joe and those guys usually they have the dinner up in the hotel, and that they usually have it in our quarterback meeting room. Not usually, but sometimes, and so those guys are always welcome. It's open to the entire team. Anybody that wants to step in and answer some questions, we'll put them on the spot.
You're open to challengers?
We're always open to challengers. Yeah, most guys I think step into the arena and they realize real quickly they don't want any part in it. So.
How big of a win is this for the team? Because this was like obviously a much needed win for you guys, and it was a very, very exciting moment for both Chase and Joe to be there. For homecoming, since they played ball at LSU. How much of a big win is that for you all as a team?
To go on the road, it's a very difficult environment. They were in a very similar position that we are, so both teams were hungry and felt like we needed that win. And so to really overcome it, when you have an early turnover that leads to points on the road, that's tough. They had the time of possession they had, that's tough. To never have the lead on the road, that's tough until the final 2 minutes. So just really proud of the way the guys hung in there and waited for their moment. And that moment for the defense, like I mentioned, came on those last 2 drives when they stepped up and made those plays to get those stops. And offensively, there were times we needed to pick up the defense, and I thought the offense did that yesterday. And so the defense has done that so many times for the offense over the course of the season. And so I thought it was just good complementary football there at the end of the stretch to allow ourselves to come out of there with a win.
New Orleans is known as one of the most hostile places to play a game in the NFL. How weird was it that your two-star players were cheered? And you knew why, but how weird was that in the moment?
I don't know when that happened, but was that pregame or something?
Yeah.
Okay. It's cool. It's just the respect. That's a great football community down there with LSU and the Saints. It's something I do appreciate as a fan of football. And so I wouldn't say that's entirely unexpected because those two guys did such spectacular things for that team down there and that community down there. And it's pretty neat that they got to take part in that and the fans got a chance to see them one more time.
Zach, what is the shift to the shotgun done for you guys offensively that you lean so heavily into that?
I think this thing's ever evolving, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to be efficient on offense. And I think yesterday, that was where we turned to increase our first down efficiency. Really, that was what it was. If you look at our third downs, all but two were between third and 2 to 4, and that's a great way to live. Your percentages are skyrocket when you're not living in third and 8 to 12 land like we have in previous weeks on early downs. And so. Again, we're willing to be creative and look at any ways in which our offense can continue to evolve. Next week we could be 90% under center. The next week we could be 98% in the gun. It's just we've got those areas of our offense we can utilize, and there's no egos. Whatever it takes to win, depending on the style of defense we're going to face, because that factors into things as well. But I think yesterday we found a pretty good rhythm. That we believed in and allowed us to be really efficient and really helped us yesterday.
Was that something, though, that you came into the game saying, this is probably how this is going to go, or was it just the first couple of drives, it's working well, so let's not stop doing it?
Both. Could have anticipated that was how it was going to go. That's what we thought it was going to be. We could have gone a different path if we needed to, and felt even with the early drives that didn't score, still, one was over 3rd and 1.5 where we had a protection issue. So that's not first and second down issues. And then we had another 3rd and 3. They had a good coverage versus the call we had, and so we were inefficient there. So those weren't really first and second down issues. We felt like we were getting what we wanted on the early downs, and so we just stuck with it, and it carried us through the game and allowed us to be pretty efficient.
To kind of build on that a little bit, it looked like y'all made a point of emphasis to go quick game early. What does that do for Burrow? Was that a thing where he talked about that him being in a good rhythm and it kind of helped him throughout the course of the game? Was that part of the thought process throughout the week? You said, hey, let's.
Well, it's not really a quick game from our standpoint. It was, we were calling runs, and he was just utilizing some of the softness to spit the ball out to the receivers. So, Mixon could have had 5 or 6 more carries there. We just got, I think, 30-something yards of production off of the run game, when he threw it. So, that's the beauty of sometimes when you face some zone coverages and you've got the weapons we have at receiver. And you're in the gun, it allows you to take a little bit more advantage of some of that if they're going to give it to you.
I don't think you ran it a ton, but what did those RPOs kind of open up for you guys over the middle? I think Joe had a couple of completions, I want to say first half, just kind of opened up over the middle.
It just puts their box in somewhat of a bind because whether it's they got to read it as a play action or a run or a quick passing game, there's just some things they got to go through. There's sometimes we're reading defenders, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're just looking at pre-snap looks. And I think Joe does a really good job of balancing all that. He turned some of them down situationally. That was really smart by him. He could have taken the throws and taken some of the runs out of Mixon's hands, but he didn't and gave it to Joe, and Joe got some really good production out of that stuff. So I thought that Burrow managed that area of the game really well, knowing when we needed to lean on some runs and when we needed to spit it out and get it to TB and Jamar. They all had run alert throws that they got in this game.
When you go back and look at it, and you say, well, that was really a run, or that was really a pass. So we may be looking at what we see in the final stats.
Yeah.
Maybe not with you guys.
Yeah. We do not care about final stats. I can promise you that. So whatever the run total was and the yardage, it has no relevance for us whatsoever. Just because we're just looking to be productive and keep ourselves in manageable positions and still test people explosively. It's whether the ball travels there or not, they can feel some of the routes coming, and Joe does a good job being decisive and taking check downs or hitting some of the underneath throws, like he did yesterday. There was a bunch of shallow crosses we hit when we had other things that we were calling down the field that weren't there, and Joe was really patient with it, and that kept us in manageable situations instead of forcing deeper throws that are lower percentage throws that put you in a second 10. I thought he did a nice job throwing underneath to Hayden and T in the backs and keeping us in manageable situations versus a team that's got a really good pass rush if you allow them to be in those positions.
When did you get the indication that T was going to be able to play as much as he did? Is that something that's pregame when you release the inactive report? Is that a pitch count early that he kind of passes a test in the first couple of drives? How did you kind of know that?
Yeah, it's a balance of everything. We really, he was truly day to day over the course of last week to see how much we could get out of him. He did some on Friday, and you go into the game expecting him to do a little bit, but you also had those roles. TB was going to do some of that, and Mike T and even Trent and Stanley, they all had roles they were going to play. T really, just as the game got going, was feeling really good, and we just let him keep riding with it.
What are y'all looking forward to? What are y'all looking forward to when y'all play the Falcons coming up on Sunday?
Well, it's a team that's in a very similar position we are. They're coming off of a good win against a good team. And, they're a well-coached football team. They've got talent in all three phases that we got to be prepared for. We're still in the initial processes of wrapping up the Saints game and getting into these guys. But I have a lot of respect for Arthur Smith and the job he's done everywhere. Always followed him in Tennessee and was really impressed by the offense that he led. And so obviously there's a lot of that that's here. It's evolved too, I think, with Marcus a little bit, but they've got some weapons you got to be ready for. They put those guys in really good positions, and they're coming off of a good win, so they got some good momentum coming here into a road game for them.
And what is the one thing that stands out about the Falcons that you all as a team need to be on the lookout for and be prepared for?
I'll give you that answer on Wednesday when we get a chance to prepare a little bit more. I'm not quite there yet.
What are the qualities an offense needs to live in the shotgun for an entire game? And
can you start over? I missed the
What are the
beginning.
qualities an offense needs to live in the shotgun for an entire game? And in the way the NFL is right now, can a team live in shotgun for an entire season, or do you also need to have a big under center part of the game?
I don't think you have to put anything into that box. You just got to be ready to evolve. And it's hard to go into game one and say this is what we're going to be the entire year. I've never been able to live that way. And there's always a process at different parts of the season where your offense can evolve in stages as well. That could be dependent on the injuries. That could be dependent on guys stepping up, and you got to capitalize on kind of what's happening in those moments. So we felt really good about how we played offense yesterday. But again, we can't go into there and say this is what every week is going to look for, because sometimes the structure of the defense gives you that. And this was a really good run defense we faced yesterday. And so the teams that had been primarily under center, it'd been tough sledding for them, and that's what puts you in some of the tougher situations. And so we had a lot of respect for that. And so we took a different approach that allowed us to maximize our playmakers. Again, that can evolve every week, and that can go in segments over the course of the season as well. And I do think that we've got enough scheme where we can lean on each different area, depending on how the game's going to call for that. But I think our guys have handled that really well when we do need to evolve and what we're asking them to do.
Jamar had 7 catches, T had 6, Tyler had 6.
Yeah.
Is that when you are at your best, when it's similar to that?
I think so. I think when we're spreading the ball around and each guy was featured as number 1 in the concept. Each guy was getting the ball as number 3 in the concept. That's just we feel good about our pass game concepts that Joe's just going to get through his progressions. And he had one really that he hit Mixon on yesterday behind the line of scrimmage that Mixon converted to a 3rd down when he made the guy miss on the sidelines, that he went from number 1 to number 5 in a heartbeat just because he could see the softness of the defense. And so when you got a quarterback that understands I can bypass these progressions because I got a guy going downhill right now that's going to give me a 1st down. That's a pretty good weapon to have.
So touching on that, with Tyler, I know there was talk about getting him more involved in the offense, and he really seemed to thrive yesterday. Just how productive was he, and how important has his role been just looking back from yesterday?
He's always there for us. Again, he's probably got the smallest ego on the team. He just wants to help the team win. We always need to find ways to involve him because he is productive. He's a great matchup, particularly in the slot. He's got tremendous hands, as good of any hands as any player in the league, and very dependable for us. And so when you get a chance to find ways to utilize him, 6 catches for 66 yards-ish, that's a when that stat line is spread throughout the receiving core with the tight ends involved and with the backs involved, and I think that can be a real strength for us.
When you talk about just piggybacking off that, we talk about kind of what you guys have built in 4 years. How instrumental has Tyler been from the beginning of 2019 and kind of building what you wanted to build from the beginning?
Critical, because not only has he been a dependable playmaker, a reliable playmaker, a leader in the receiver room and for the offense. He's a guy I can pull into my office if I need a message and trust that TB is going to help deliver that. And he's just done that. He's just been the same consistent guy for the 4 years I've been, and definitely in the year before I got here as well, just watching his tape. And he's a real weapon in this league, one of the best slots, to play the game right now. And he and Joe have a real high level of chemistry and comfort level together.
Saw DJ on the rehab field for the first time last week, on the sideline for the first time yesterday. Is there optimism that he could be back for Cleveland
This week?
He can do this week.
I don't know. I don't know that. I think he's progressing in a good manner right now, but I hate to make predictions on what the timeline is for him.
Can you quantify how much this defense misses him, or how much he?
He's irreplaceable. He's one of the premier D tackles in the National Football League, and probably doesn't get enough credit for what he has done. But he does within our locker room and our coaching staff. I think that's him being voted captain says a lot about how he stood out that way. And so again, he's that combination of him and BJ is really good together. And so of course we'll be happy to have him when he comes back. But I don't know what that timeline is yet.
With the guys you lost yesterday on the line and DJ being out, obviously, where are you guys at numbers wise? Are those guys IR candidates? I mean, do you have to make some moves on the D line?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that yet. So I think we'll get more information probably the next 24 hours that'll kind of provide some clarity there on where we need to go.
Joe Mixon has averaged 5.6 each of the last 2 games. Most of those runs have come out of the shotgun. Is that just math? Fewer guys to deal with up front?
It's a little bit just more how people are playing us. And so, again, some of those downhill shotgun runs have been effective versus some of the looks we've been getting. That changes, though, when you see that shift come when we're in the game and we get a lead. And, more of those structures have come when we're down 10 points, which has been too often. Because now they can force you to be patient, thinking that time is on their side. And so, again, it just always goes back to we need to do a better job of scoring points early in the game so that teams can't just sit back and try to limit your explosives and force you to be patient, which we will. But it just makes football a little bit easier when you can push the different coverages onto the defenses that you want to see.
Also, kind of, last week you talked about one of the reasons the offense kind of maybe wasn't firing. Y'all got double-digit deficits early. The games yesterday, y'all went behind by 10 early in the second quarter. What made yesterday's double-digit deficit maybe a little different? Why were y'all able to be?
It wasn't. It really wasn't. The game played out very similar to what the other 3 have played out. The difference was we made some big plays there on those last 2 stands on defense to allow us to get the lead back and then shut them down and keep them out of the end zone on the last drive and allow us to win the game. So again, I think, and we scored on more of our opportunities there I think we scored on the last 4 or 5 possessions, maybe 3. Yeah, the last 3, 4 of the last 5 to allow ourselves to overcome that. But unfortunately, we put ourselves in that hole that we've been doing, and we cannot continue to live that way. That's going to catch up to you sooner rather than later.
You guys have played a lot of one-possession games over the last year and a half. It's like 16. Is that more emotionally taxing than today? I mean, is there a difference? Do you set that for your players? For you, what's it like when it's like every game is almost the last play? It's like, does it have an impact at all to the locker room or you?
This is me. Yeah, I'm exhausted after I get done at the press conference after every game. You're worn out, but there's also the high from the game where you're just trying to process back through. Sometimes some of the questions in the post-game press conferences spur things that happen in the game that I'd forgotten about a little bit until you watch the tape on the plane. But it's just what we're used to. This process of playing an emotional game and then showing back up to work the next day to get ready for the Falcons is the life we chose. That's what we know. And so you don't allow yourself to feel worn down the next day, because it's just your process starts with a 2:00 team meeting, and then you got to turn to the Falcons and start getting ready for the tape and have a plan ready by Tuesday night to give the players on Wednesday morning. And so it's just your routine that you've done now for me for 10 years, and what your body feels like catches up to you in February. You feel it in February that you didn't realize how you felt until you get sick on February 20th for 7 days, and then you go into your hibernation period, and then you get your body back, and then you destroy your body again for 6 months. So that's kind of just the life that we've chosen.
Make it sound so fun.
It is the best. It really is. It is when you win. Yeah.
You have a lot of pride in not committing bad penalties. What's the message after what happened with Trey's 3rd and 25 yesterday? Because the roughing the passer thing is out there in the league. I know you talked. Do you readdress that? Do you readdress? How did you approach that?
There's guys that we don't ever want that. There's certainly guys, when they do it, they know that was dumb. I shouldn't have done that. And I think Trey fell into that category yesterday of understanding what that meant, so again, our guys have done a really good job. You get an outlier of that situation for us that we've done a really good job of preventing over the last couple of years. And when you get a player who handles himself the right way and does a great job of not doing that kind of stuff, he understands that message very quickly. And we know as a team that's not something we can continue to do.